And I was at Wall Street for like 2.5 years, doing everything except for brewing, basically, because science is hard. And I'm more of a pretty face and a chatty boy than I am. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Beer Inside Bubble episodes, as we like to call them. And joining me today is Chris, also known as Buck Brewski on Instagram, who is also the host of Cinema Swap and a territory manager for Broadhead Brewing out of Orleans, Ontario.
Hello. Hi. Hi. Sorry, I can speak now, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you very much for taking time in your schedule to speak with us today. I can't imagine working at a brewery is not a busy job in any way, especially with being a sales manager of some sort. So
yeah, I mean, obviously with the lockdown ending, well, I guess it's sort of dating the episode now, but with this round of lockdown is currently finished. So it's opportunity to get back out, see the bars and restaurants, say hi to people again. Because between Christmas and honestly February, it's mostly just because of the lockdown, it was inventory management, the LCBO, making sure people have beer, not trying to sell anybody anything because they already have it. So it's nice to like take meetings and be like, hey, here's my beer. You should please put it on tap. And, really just getting the juices flowing again.
Yeah, so that's great.
It's good. And I also like going to bars.
Yeah, for sure. As Will mentioned from your Instagram and from what I've seen, obviously, is you do enjoy beer, and that's a reason why you're in the industry. Speaking of which, you mentioned you're trying to sell your beer. What I like to do with my guests is share a virtual beer, so let my audience know what you're drinking.
Yeah, so today it's one of our Broadhead. We do these small batch beers called the 174 Taproom series because we're right off Highway 174 in the east end of Ottawa. So I am drinking a Munich Dunkle lager, one of our newer ones, and I'm going to show you what it looks like in the pint glass too. It's nice, like really nice ruby colored German lager. And before trying this last week, I don't know if I've ever had a Dunkle before, just through not having one. Like I didn't try to avoid them; they just never kind of came across my desk, as it were. But I've been enjoying the heck out of these. I've been crushing these since last week. They're our head brewer Mark just does wonderful things with beer. So every time I pick up a can from work, I know I'm not going to go wrong.
We as a show have been lucky enough to interview Mark's girlfriend. I don't know if it's fiancée, Crystal. So yeah. We know, and Broadhead is on our list of breweries we must interview in 2022.
Absolutely.
Hopefully with Mark and any owners who are willing to step up. I mentioned pre-show, I am drinking Nickel Brook's Brave Noise Pale Ale. It is a collaboration with a big goal, a safe and discriminatory beer industry, which is something we as a show always want more diversity, more people of color, and obviously whatever your sexual preference is, anybody could join a beer, enjoy a beer. Beer is by itself, very definition, wide open to everyone. It is welcome. It should be welcoming. Not everybody should literally look like us, white dudes with beards. So
man, it's crazy because I didn't obviously think about it much before, but I forgot about this story, but I was at a brewery's anniversary party in like 2017, and I was there with a friend of mine, and we were walking around this big area. There's a ton of people there, and I was wearing a hat and some sort of plaid shirt or whatever. And my friend, she's looking around, and she says, "Chris, everybody here looks like you. like everyone here looks like a clone of you." And I'm looking around, I'm like, this is the privilege that we have. I look around, I'm like, huh, I guess they kind of do it, and we laughed about it or whatever. But it's really great to see that the industry or people in the industry are trying to really push for more inclusivity, more diversity, because we need that. We need other voices, we need other perspectives, not just, like we said, white guys with beards all the damn time. Like, we need other people that love beer, because everyone loves beer, no matter the color of your skin, no matter what your gender or your sexual preference. Oh, not everybody loves beer, but everybody of every stripe loves beer.
Yes.
And I just want to share beer with as many people as possible.
Yeah. And we do a virtual toast here. So let's do this. A toast. Let's see if I can do it. Yes. Oh, wow. Malty pale ale. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's my type of beer. I mean, obviously, you drink in Munich Dunkel is a more malt heavier beer than anything else, so it's caught you off guard, I'm sure. Also with the Munichs, I saw in one of your previous Instagrams, which we'll get to, you went to Rockland a while back.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was going out like checking all the LCBOs along that stretch of the highway out to Hawkesbury and stuff, and I know that Brower Kaufman's in Rockland, and I've driven past there dozens of times. I've been too busy to stop. I'm like, you know what? I'm stopping today. I'm going to pop by, say hello to the brewer, Eric. He's one of the owners as well. Super nice guy. I can say the beer they brewed, excellent.
Yeah,
really, really impressed by their stuff.
Yeah, as a show, we were lucky enough to interview them at one point as well. So thankfully, they're on the list. We've gotten most of Orleans. I believe it's just Broadhead left for us. So we're hoping.
White whale.
Yeah. I mean, your current location is beautiful versus what it used to be. I mean, I've been drinking craft beer for 15 years now. So the old place in Ottawa, it's a big change for what Broadhead's become.
Yeah, the new location in Orleans is definitely a step up. The old location at Origa Avenue, it's in our hearts. Kind of sucked, but the new place is what a proper brewery should look like. The old place was the start of hopes and dreams, and this now we actually have an actual commercial brewery.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing that across the board. You guys, Kitchissippi, Vimy at some point they're moving to a new facility as well. So
I've actually been, because I know Mike and Kevin very well. I used to work with them a bit back. We can get into that later, but I popped by there before Christmas and said hi, and it's a bit of a smaller spot, but the tap room looks like it's going to be like a proper pub looking, more intimate space. Like, I love Vimy Brewing. I used to live nearby, and I'd go to their new old place all the time, but it always had that sort of like cavernous feel with the tap room, which is fine. But the new tap room looks like it's gonna be like a proper look, like pub looking space. I think it's gonna be a really cozy spot. So I'm looking forward to going there when they're open again.
Yeah, which things are looking up right now. So hopefully soon. Awesome.
Exactly.
So what I like to ask my guests are, what's your beer story? What brought you to craft beer? Did somebody bring you in? What made you decide like, this is it? This is what I'm drinking from now on in my beer, and I'm not gonna. Everybody's still got to drink macro, obviously, at sporting events or with your friends, but mostly you drink craft beer. It's very clear with your Instagram. What made you decide that, and what brought you to it?
Yeah, so I think the first craft beer I ever had was Big Rig Gold when it was still in long neck bottles. You buy it in 6-packs from the LCBO, like their first beer they made. This was probably 2013. I'm 28, so a little younger.
A lot younger than me.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm from Toronto originally, but I went to school in Ottawa, so I go home every summer, and then my dad and I would have beers together after work, which is usually, we did a lot of moose heads, crack canoes, that kind of stuff. But my dad also liked English ales and stuff, so I started developing a taste for some more malty beers, like a little bit for the hops, but I mean, with like English stuff, it's not crazy hoppy. And then I tried the Big Rig. I'm like, whoa, this is like a light beer or whatever, but it tastes good. I'm like, I didn't know beer could like be this malty, and like I didn't know what the words at the time, but like it was. I haven't had a bigger gold in a while, but when I was drinking out of those long neck bottles, boy, like it was unreal. It just tasted like golden nectar. And I was like, whoa, this can be good. So I started just mixing that in more often. I got into Sam Adams, like the Boston Lager, a lot more. And whether you want to talk about the actual craftiness of Sam Adams or not, that's a different conversation, I guess. But and then I remember trying Bone Shaker one time, like in probably 2014 or something, 2013, and no, it was not for me. And I love Amsterdam, and it's just like Bone Shaker's one I couldn't kind of. It was just too much. It's like sucking on a pine cone. That was before I've ever had any IPAs, and it's crazy. I still can't drink Bone Shaker. I love bitter IPAs, and Bone Shaker's one I know I'm wrong, but it's just not for me. I guess I just kind of like stumbled into better versions of the macro beers I was drinking, which I think is the story for a lot of craft beer drinkers, and then develop my palate. Well, I used to be a bartender and stuff like that, working at a bar with tons of beer on tap. And then when I really got into the industry, and that was sort of a big story, it's been years now. I graduated school in 2015. Decided to stay in Ottawa because it's much more chill than Toronto. I like it here a lot better. Um, and I started volunteering at Waller Street Brewing, RIP, used to be downtown. Um, and I started volunteering because I was working in a restaurant at the time. I'm like, oh, but I'm interested in the brewing industry. So I'll just a couple days a week go down, help them keg, clean, whatever. And after a couple months, the owners, they texted me. They're like, hey, Chris, we're gonna start paying someone to do your job. Do you want money? I'm like, well, yes, I would like that. And it was just a little thing, just extra money. Like they were a little shop. They couldn't afford to, pay me a bunch of money. But I'm like, you know what? I have a quote unquote, other full-time jobs. This is bonus stuff. And I was at Wall Street for like 2.5 years, doing everything except for brewing, basically, because science is hard. And I'm more of a pretty face and a chatty boy than I am. Yeah. But yeah, that was great. And then I started working for a company called BW Beverage Service, which is a sales agency run by the really fine folks at Shiloh Brewing, Ben and Jamie, who are just excellent people, love them. And so I did that for a year, just doing strictly sales, but it was still a part-time thing because it's still kind of a small operation. And then I was approached by a friend who worked at Calabogie Brewing. Mhm. And I was a sales rep there for a while. And then I got into, actually, I worked for Vessel Packaging as a mobile canning operator.
Okay.
And then I ended up with Broadhead. So it's been pretty beer industry heavy for the last 6, almost 7 years now, and just I can pretty much do anything at a brewery now except for brewing, which is an exciting set of skills to have.
Yeah. You sound like you're a journey, or obviously a journeyman of a type into the brewing industry. You can obviously put on many hats when you need to, so that's an important thing for a brewery to have. Is I was personally, if I had the funds, it's like, okay, well, I would be like the project manager and owner, and then I would need because you need an SEO, social media person, and then a brewer. So I'm like, okay, 3 people, but then I need a beer tender. So I'm like, okay, startup costs, I got to win the lottery. It's that simple.
People ask me all the time, Chris, do you ever want to open up your own brewery? And I say, listen, if I had $1 million I didn't want, maybe I would. But you legit need that much money to do something that's actually going to be good. Like if I ever think about opening up a brewery, I'd be like, I would just copy what Flora Hall does because they just have it down to an art form there. Perfect location, excellent beer, good food, gorgeous spot. No parking, but everybody walks there anyway. So yeah, I probably never open up my own brewery, and that's probably a good thing because I'm happy, to keep supporting good teams.
Yeah, instead of lying under the fermenter's tank going, yeah, all in my mill for me. So
yeah.
That's awesome. No, and it's great to hear that you had obviously a fantastic journey. Mine started at, ironically enough, next to the World Beer Festival here in Montreal. And I'm like, whoa, beer can have flavor. What's this about? And it's like, oh, let's try these. Let's try these. And all my friends are like, dude, Budweiser and this beer is like $1 for a full glass. I'm like, but this tastes better over here for 5 times the price. And then ever since, I gladly pay for quality products. That's
Montreal craft beer is not cheap.
Well, most places are not cheap, unfortunately. It's taxes. It's that simple. But
it's crazy. I love going to Quebec for craft beer, and even Montreal because my fiance's brother and his wife live there, so we go once in a while to visit. And I will go to the breweries. I will buy cans to go, but I'm so sad I'm spending $30 on a 4-pack. It breaks my heart. It makes me so upset, but I would still buy it because I want to drink it.
So for your Instagram, what made you decide Buck Brewski and not, Chris drinks beer, or you have your last name here? So let's just say CDC drinker or something like that. CDC drinker wouldn't work right now, but something else. What made you decide Buck Brewski?
I tell you what, I didn't even think about it for a single second. That was the first, I think that Buck is a fun kind of whimsical name. Just saying like Buck. It's kind of fun. And Buck Brewski's alliteration was wrong with the tongue. I think I created that handle in like literally like 10 seconds. It just came to me. It's funny. I mean, I don't know if it's funny, but it's like, just fun. It's whatever. Like it's, yeah, I just Buck Brewski, just easy to remember, easy to say. Like I've had people come to me at beer festivals, like, "Hey, Buck," and I'm like, I turn around, because I know they're talking to me because there's no other Bucks there.
Yeah.
And it always makes me laugh when someone thinks my name's actually Buck. Like, like obviously, do you know any Bucks? But I don't. Whatever.
Maybe some of our friends to the south, but not
Yeah,
so
maybe.
many Canadians. Gord is more of a Canadian name than
Yeah.
Buck. So
His name is Buck, and he likes to drink.
Yep. He likes to truck. That's it. Yeah. As ironic as it is, we are a PG show, even though we drink alcohol on it. So it's
Yeah, no
it's an
worries.
interesting thing, but it is YouTube's numbers that we have to respect the YouTube stuff. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, the name kind of just came out of nowhere. I think it's silly. It's irreverent. And I used to be Buck Brucey _ Esquire, but I'm not a lawyer. And I thought it was like kind of just like silly after a couple of years. I'm like, I feel like a bit of a ding dong looking at it. Like this is dumb. So I just dropped that. So now I'm just Buck Brewski across platforms. Super easy.
Yeah, I mean,
Get
you'd
that
have
synergy of social media.
Yeah, you'd have to start curling up the mustache, drinking beer with a monocle, So
I could. I would hate this look, but I could. I need to shave. I need to trim this down. To be honest.
Awesome. That's great. And as I mentioned in the open, you are the host of a podcast called Cinema Swap. Let my audience know what Cinema Swap's all about.
Yeah, so it has nothing to do with beer, which sounds weird because most things in my life have to do with beer. But basically, the first season and much of the second, we're on the second season now. But we look at older movies and we recast them with modern actors. So, for instance, we did an episode on Titanic where it was like, okay, who's playing Jack and Rose if they made Titanic today? Because it wouldn't be Leonardo DiCaprio and
Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet, thank you. God, dude, yeah, I'm not very good at this.
I'm a bit of a movie guy.
Exactly, and it's kind of fun. We talk about it. We have on. It's supposed to be a comedy show as well, so it's movies and comedy. Myself and my co-host Forrester, we recast old movies of modern actors. We also do some new stuff for season 2 because watching a movie every single week, taking notes, and then recording an hour to hour and a half podcast is a lot of work. Even though watching movies is fun, having to actually like really think about it and pay attention and think about other stuff is more effort than you think it is. So we're like, well, maybe we'll give ourselves a bit more of a break. So we also do stuff where we talk about, okay, we just released an episode on how we can make some famous movie couples better by swapping in other movie characters. So we're still doing cinema swapping. We're also just swapping other stuff than just actors. We've done ones where we say, there was one episode we did around Halloween in 2021 where it's what movie monsters we think we could take in a fight. So for this fun stuff about movies, so it's now more sort of a movie in general podcast, but we still like to focus on the older movies, swapping the actors, and just talking and joking about that kind of stuff. We have on as much as possible actual comedians from all over, from Chicago, Toronto, LA, some of them, some really, really funny people to guest on our episodes. Sometimes it's friends or family who like movies too, but it's a blast, and it's just it's good. It's not clean fun, but it's good fun, and we just get to shoot the crap about movies with some very funny people, which is a lot of fun for us.
Well, like we'd mentioned off show, if you're ever going to recast, I suggested either Beer Fest. So when you have the chance, and if you ever guys do that, I'd love to be part of that episode personally.
We will let you know. Absolutely.
I did originally start my podcasting life on a movie podcast as well.
There you
go. We were old school at the movies. We would do like movie drafts and we would talk about the weekly stuff that came out, what we wanted to see. It was, and it's not like there isn't, this was 8 years ago too. So before the really took off of everybody having a podcast. So it's pretty crazy.
That has a podcast now. Yeah, exactly.
I did enjoy you, your co-host, and I don't know who you had on the Demolition Man recasting. That was fun.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was a comedian and a writer actually named Norm Souza. He's in LA. He's Canadian actually though. It was a blast. I'd never seen that movie before, so it was very fun watching it. It's a great movie, and then chatting about it for an hour and a little bit with someone who is paid to be funny.
Yeah. That's always good. Yeah, I unfortunately wasn't able to listen to obviously your entire back catalog before we started communicating, but I did select some of my preferred episodes, like your movie villain switch out, and your what sports movies could I succeed in?
Yeah, which was tough because most sports movies are like hockey or basketball, and we're awful at those. It's like I probably couldn't even play the Mighty Ducks, But dodgeball obviously came up and a couple things. But yeah, we just like to we swap ourselves in the movies, we swap movie characters, we swap actors. Yeah, it's fun and it just gets us thinking about movies. And we've had a lot of feedback from people like, yeah, I love to listen to it because it sounds like a couple friends just talking, shooting the bull. And just like makes people think and reminds them of movies they used to see or whatever. Hey, people are giving us some good feedback, which makes us feel nice because it's lots of work, but we have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah. Podcasting is people are like, oh, you just record and send it out. No, you don't. It's not easy.
Trust me. The editing too. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah, unfortunately, like as this show started, it used to be where we would get together, do a beer tasting, and then talk about beer and other related news and joke around. And when it started, it would be wed, bed, dead. What actress would you marry, sleep with, and kill off? A typical old school guy stuff. And then we started evolving the show, and then the world stopped us from ever hanging out again. So that's big, but it's it's fun and games for us to get together for 4.5, 5 hours, and then it takes me 10 hours to produce content and put it out.
Oh,
so
yeah,
it's crazy that nobody knows. I mean, obviously big multi-million-dollar people who have shows have producers. We don't. We have to do this ourselves. This is all our own work, and it's not easy work. It's
I mean, one of the reasons we're like, so we do 3 kind of shorter episodes a month, and then 1 full movie recasting at the end of the month. Because movie recasting can be anywhere from an hour to hour and a half of episode. It takes me like 3 hours to edit. Like, I don't want to spend half my Saturday editing a podcast.
Yeah.
But, it's still worth it.
Yeah, I personally still have stuff to edit from because we had a problem with the website, but the website's back up and running. So now it's like, oh, I got to edit content from 1.5 years ago. But it's still like, it doesn't matter because what we did doesn't like really affect the world in any way or how much the world's changed since then. So
yeah,
it's coming along. There's been 1 million more podcasts that have come out, and obviously not some great ones. Clearly, you guys have made it past the podcast threshold of 5 episodes. That seems to be the one where usually by 5 episodes is done. So
we're at like 65, which is insane to me because I look at it like, how many hours have I put into this thing? Holy crap! Like it's so much. Like we did season 1 is 51 episodes, and we're on season 2, episode 16 will be coming out. I keep dating this up. I don't know when this is coming out. I keep dating it, but like we're it's going well. It's fun, and like we've got good feedback. We're not the most popular show on Spotify, but you know what? It's worth it that there are people every week who listen to our show and enjoy it. And we have so it makes it worth it that we're bringing some fun content to people to just kind of lighten the load because it's still dark times out there and people need to be able to like escape and laugh a little during the week, whether it's half an hour or an hour and a little bit.
Yeah, no, I love listening to podcasts. Like I do listen to music sometimes while I'm working. I have a job where I can listen to podcasts and music all day, or when I'm on the road driving to breweries to interview them, it's usually a podcast. It's new talk radio, but for your own ideas. And you've obviously, as I clearly mentioned, you got a new listener of me. I love the concept of your show. So it's super fun. And to me, it's a little more original. I'm sure there's another one, who knows where
there's
the
like
focus
maybe
is.
Another one.
Yeah.
But that's why we went with the idea originally of recasting too, because there's 100 movie podcasts out there. People talk about history. I like movies. I wouldn't say I'm a movie buff. I don't know enough to like go and like, oh, this is the history of movies, or like, yeah. Like I wouldn't pretend to be that level of stuff, but I'm like, I can watch a movie, make fun of it, and also say who should be in it if it was made today. That's easy. I don't need any sort of research for that.
Now, I mean, us as the All Beer Inside show, when we were just a podcast, we did a beer fest watch along, and that's something that I'm hoping to do more of in the future as this show becomes a network and bigger things. And obviously, I love talking to people about craft beer, but I feel like I could do more, but still not be an owner at the same time, or a brewer or anything like that. So to me, there's so much opportunity in craft beer, no matter what you do. even if you're not working at breweries. So
it is a fun industry for that. Like I always tell people, I mean, maybe not during COVID, but I've told people for years, like, hey, you went to school for this, and that. You looking for a job? Craft breweries are always hiring for different. You don't have to just brew beer. They need accountants. They need communications managers, salespeople, HR, like logistics, all sorts of stuff that like the industry has jobs for. So everybody, no matter what you went to school for, what your experience is, it's very cool for that. It's like I could never be a brewer because science is hard, and I just have no interest in being a brewer. But I've been making a living doing sales and events and all sorts of stuff for the past years, and it's been so much fun.
Now for yourself, when you drink beer, now obviously you said the milds kind of brought you in that direction, but what's like the inspiration style that you look for when you're drinking a craft beer?
So my favorite style, I think, of all time, coffee blondes / white stouts, which are the exact same thing. There's no different. People will say, "Oh, it's a white stout. It's coffee blonde." No, it's the same beer. They're both yellow ales that taste like vanilla coffee. They're so good. I could drink those all day long and be the happiest boy. I'm a huge fan of those. I like malt, but you don't find those very often. So I will drink almost anything, but I like malty stuff, like a really good lager, amber. Like I said, I got this Dunkle right now. English pale ales are killer. Like anything that tastes like bread, anything with rye in it, sign me up. But I mean, the only things I really don't go for, don't love Belgian, don't love wits because I hate coriander and that kind of dry orange peel flavor. And I just can't get around box, even though they're like kind of multi too. I don't know, just like it's like the two beers I just will not ever look at and be like, give me one of those. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Or grapefruit. No grapefruit.
Yeah, it's wild. Like my beer drinking style changes all the time, but my consistency of beer drinking whenever I'm at a new place and I'm doing a flight, the first thing is always a lager.
Always.
Because if you can't nail a lager, I don't know what the rest of your beer is going to taste like. So it's a lot of people don't understand that because they'll like, oh, an ale's a lager. No, it's not. But it's educating people, and that's what another question I like to ask is like when you're educating or recommending beers and breweries to friends, how do you feel like you go about that when somebody is still super macro heavy and you're like, dude, try this. Like what's even it, by all means, please promote Broadhead. But if it's not Broadhead, what are like those intro to craft beers for the still macro drinkers in your life?
Yeah. So, I mean, at Broadhead, we have a really, really nice lager and a very clean Pilsner, which I always recommend if people like, I like something lighter. My fiance's family, they're from the countryside. So their fridge is full of Bud Light and then also like nice IPAs because they like to, and Amber, like they drink some and stuff, but also lots of Bud Light. So like, hey, I'm coming over, we're doing dinner. Here's a 6-pack of lager, a 6-pack of Pilsner from Broadhead. Crowd pleasers, excellent. I mean, if someone comes up to me and says, Chris, I want to try something good, what do you recommend? And this is something that I, figured out very quickly when I was a bartender. I ask people, what do you like? So I don't want to just tell you, drink this. I don't know the heck they like, so I'm not going to tell them to drink something. People just go, oh, surprise me, and say, shut up. No. Like, no, I'm not going to surprise you. Like, what do you like? Because I'm not going to pour a pint of beer for you and then have you get, no, I don't want that. It's like, okay, then I just wasted 20 ounces of beer, moron. So I ask people, what do they like? It's like, oh, do you like stuff that's dry and bitter? Do you like IPAs? Do you just drink macro lagers? You want a good lager? Okay. Like, do you like fruity stuff? Like, I'm a huge fan of like really fruity sours because I think they're just so much fun. Like anytime it says strawberry or guava papaya, like, ooh, sign me up. Yeah, if I was going to introduce somebody to breweries, I'd be like, okay, what kind of stuff do you want to go to? What kind of vibe do you want? One of my favorites, I live downtown Ottawa, well, downtown-ish. I like going to Flora Hall a lot. Like I mentioned before, they have a really great vibe there. Excellent beer, something for everybody, really. The food's good. So, shout out to Flora Hall. If people, Dominion City is always fun. If you want to spend tons of money and drink a bunch of tiny cans of hype beers, they got some really cool stuff. It depends on who I'm with, what the crowd is like. I live down the street from Braumeister, their new like beer hall, which is multi-German beers. That's it on tap. But if I'm going there with some buddies or my dad, like let's go for some Steins, like so heavy you can barely lift them for your first couple sips. It depends. There's great breweries and all. Like I said, Flora Hall, Spark Brewing, one of my favorites down in Chinatown. The brewers there are friends of mine. They do some excellent stuff. No misses from them. Honestly, no misses. Bridge Rock out in Carp is one of my favorites. Again, I've been very lucky to, do a lot of networking and relationship building in the industry in around Ottawa in the last like 6 or 7 years, and just make a lot of like real friends too. So you almost you can't miss if you come to Ottawa and you go to a craft brewery. Everything's awesome, and the ones I haven't been to yet, I will get to at some point. But yeah, like it's just there's always great stuff, and I think especially in Ottawa, most breweries do a good job of having approachable stuff and then some like real funky fun stuff for the more adventurous of us. Like most places you go to will have a lager or pilsner or blonde or golden ale on tap, and then we'll have your New England IPAs and West Coast IPAs, and then your triple chocolate dessert stout or whatever the heck, you can't go wrong. It depends on location. It's like where you're going to be. Okay, go there. Like always come to Broadhead. We have great stuff too, but I get if you're in downtown, it's a bit more of a drive to Orleans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, like, with the car, it's like, oh, okay, well, Orleans is on the way back to Montreal.
There you go.
And so it's like, oh, instead of heading on the 417, which is not a great road, I'll just take the 174 to the whatever, and
it's Hawkesbury go down the 50 to Montreal.
Yeah, exactly. So
nicer drive.
And there's all these breweries for me to hit, or go to Gloucester, hit Dominion City, pick up the hype beers, like you said. It's
well, Dominion City's great. Not to throw any shade to Dominion City.
No. they do make fantastic beer. There's no question about it. They were. I mean, the day I went, it was like a Sunday afternoon, and it was when we were about to go into another lockdown, so there weren't a lot of people out. But it was like, oh, there's still great beer for me to drink here. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sitting here, and then on my way back, I'll head out to the store and grab some beer and head home. And it's the same thing. I'll hit Broadhead. I'll have a pint. I'll grab a 4-pack or 6-pack from the fridge and head home. It's pretty simple. And with you, there's you, Stray Dog, and
Stray Dog right around the corner.
Yeah, Orleans Brewing Company. It's
love them. Yeah. OBC, great stuff too. Yeah.
There's a lot of beer options between my house to Ottawa and back. So
and like literally now you have Brauer Kaufman in Rockland there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Bose technically still exists in Van Cleek Hill. Although I heard, I was out there recently, and I don't want to be spilling any beans, but like I heard the brewery's like for lease or something. I could be wrong, but I heard that from locals in town that they're like selling the location. So I don't know.
I know there was some sort of conglomeration with Steam Whistle, but I didn't catch the full thing.
Practically, I mean,
you know what? I don't want to speak ill of it because as long as there's still Canadians producing Canadian beer, I don't care what they do. As long as you are still supporting Canada. Yeah. And like I said, I have some great friends at US breweries, and I love drinking their beer. But I am a Canadian first, and I will always pick Canadian beer over some US. Although I will admit, like I did spend. A friend did spend the $250 on Sam Adams Utopia, and we got together and drank it. We were like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!"
Is it? I've always been interested when I see those. I'm like, this looks like something that's on my bucket list to have one of those sometime. Is it? What kind of beer is it?
It's so the one we had, because it changes every 2 years. They're the yeast strain they use. They allow it to mutate, and then there's something else they do. But the one we had was like a fine hop sherry. It was like a little bit of leatheriness to it with a little bit of that sherry flavor and hoppiness. It was, and we had 5-ounce pours each, and I'm like, this is 30%. Like I'm gonna get drunk. It's heavy. It's fantastic.
That's hard liquor.
Yeah, it's one of those journey beers like that. Pliny the Elder out of California. It's those journey beers that you have to try at least once. So.
Yeah, the beer drinker's bucket list kind of thing.
Exactly. So we're gonna get to your Instagram here now. I like that you have a good combination of everything. There's obviously mostly beer focused, but you do have pictures with your fiance, pictures with your dog Teddy. What made you decide kind of have all that combination, not just beer? Here's my work, beer, and not really involving it, and also involving your private life at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I try to focus on beer. I started. Because I used to have my own personal, like, Chris DiCarlo Instagram account where I was following all my friends and yada, yada. And I was posting photos of beer. And then I was getting a lot of likes on those photos. I'm like, well, maybe I'll just do, like, this was probably in 2015. like maybe I'll just do a beer Instagram. If everyone's liking the photos I'm posting of beer, maybe I'll just focus on that and post other stuff to Facebook for the most part. So I started doing that and trying new beers and all sorts of stuff, and got more followers. I have almost 900 now, which is kind of fun, you know. And in terms of the mix of stuff, I try to keep it. I probably keep it 90% beer related, but sometimes there's like big stuff going on, and I want to share. Like if we're at weddings and we're dressed up nice, I'm like, yeah, I'll take some pictures. Like people like to see that stuff as well. To see like to see an actual human behind the pint glass. And obviously the dog is cute as hell. So I'm going to take as many photos of Teddy near my beer as possible because people love cute dogs and beer as well. But no, like I said, mostly keep it beer focused. Some stuff like I don't want to say it's like for work. Like obviously, I like to promote the beer that we brew because I like it. It's good. I like to do a bunch of Broadhead stuff and a bunch of other stuff because like I've got a bunch of beer in my fridge right now from breweries in Toronto that my dad gathered for me before Christmas. So I'm still going through some of it. So there'll be like you'll often see if I get a whole bunch of beer from like one brewery in Toronto, it'll just be for a week, just one brewery. It's like, oh, is Chris just drinking that now? It's like, no, I just have to go through like 8 cans or something. And if it's like, one thing I like about working at Broadhead is that I get beer from work and I don't have to take a picture of every beer I drink because, and it sounds like I'm like a real champagne problem, but if I get a new, like really interesting beer, I want to post a photo of it, but I don't always want to take the time to like take a picture of beer, post on Instagram. I just want to sit and enjoy this. So sometimes I hold off drinking new beers because I don't feel like posting anything. I'm just feeling lazy. I'm like, oh, I just posted two already. Like, oh my God, it's all new beers. But I really do enjoy sharing the beers that I'm drinking, talking about them. Like, I'm not a cicerone. I'm not a huge beer writer. I just share my thoughts. They're never that complicated. Like, oh, it's super smooth. It tastes like this. Like, you're gonna get better flavor profile write-ups from the actual brewery. But it's like I built my own bar. I like to take pictures on it, and just share the beer I'm drinking. And sometimes be clever or just be like, hey, here's a beer I'm drinking. Have you had it? You should give it a try. It's just to share with my friends and now kind of the wider Instagram community, which it's been a lot of fun. I've had people, I've made friendships kind of through this as well, which is kind of nice. There's always a good beer community through social media. Not on Twitter, but
yeah.
but on Instagram, it's more friendly and people just sharing pictures. But yeah, and then sometimes I'll post a picture of my dog or the engagement photos from last summer, which there was beer in the photo, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely I do find Instagram is a little more copacetic to my better mental health than the other social media platforms. Obviously LinkedIn for personal business stuff, but even that people are really becoming trolly on something that's supposed to be business focused, unfortunately. So
yeah,
I do find Instagram community, the craft beer community that at least I've met and I've heard, stuff about breweries that maybe because of the mindset and my political views I shouldn't visit. We won't mention by name because they don't deserve the talk about them.
There's a couple I've noticed in the last week for some reason.
They definitely helped me. And you mentioned Shiloh before. First time I ever went there was just before this new lockdown. And I'm like, I spoke with Ben and he's like, oh yeah, dude, whenever we can set something up, we will do the interview with myself, my wife, who's my brewmaster. I'm like, oh, sweet. Like another woman at beer. This is what I love to hear. So it's
yeah, they're both great.
Yeah. It's so great hearing this kind of stuff. And, knock on wood, I haven't met a complete a-hole yet. And I'm really hoping it stays that way for a little bit longer, at least before the veil is lifted. I'd like it to continue this way. So
yeah, it's tough because like, I do think that most people in this industry are good people who are passionate about beer and like progressive, open-minded, like solid people. And there's definitely a like kind of deep-rooted, darker side to things where there's a lot of the white boys club stuff still in many breweries, and it's hard to notice if you're not on the receiving end of the the inequality and discrimination. That comes with the privilege that we have as like cisgender white males. Like we just don't always notice this stuff. So when we do, it's important to be a good ally and speak out against that kind of crap. But for the most part, I think that most people are in this industry because they love craft beer. They work hard and want to have a good time with as many people as possible, and there's definitely some scumbags we got to root out and clean up the act of some places for sure, as we've seen recently, and just as I'm sure a lot of people knew in secret for a long time anyway. So I'm really hoping that we can see more of this positive growth and change, and people aren't afraid to speak up when there's toxic work environments or all sorts of even more awful things going on. I don't want to see that. It breaks my heart to hear those stories. And in the industry that I love, it's not perfect. We want it to be, but there's a lot of work to do in that regard for sure.
Yeah, and obviously Aaron and at Rat Magnet on Instagram, they are helping facilitate this cause of let's make things better and safer, and every single brewery that I drink from when I'm in Ontario or when I'm here in Quebec, not every single one here in Quebec, but most of them are, have you ever been harassed here? Not cool. Tell us. That person's gone. And that is immediately like, you guys are getting money from me. There's no question about it. So
absolutely. It's important.
People are like, oh, beer shouldn't be political, but if it's not, then what kind of change is the industry going to facilitate if they're quiet about it? So,
bro, everything's political.
Yeah. I know.
Art is political.
I know.
Sports are political. Beer is political. TV, everything's friggin' political. Like everyone has an opinion, and it will bleed through in the things that you do, whether you intend it to or not.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. Anyone who thinks otherwise is, ignorant or deluded. Like, it's silly.
Yeah, unfortunately so. And
just stick to beer.
Oh yeah, no. I've people are like, oh, stick to this. I'm like, okay, then you stick to accounting. So stick to passing the puck. Well, you should stick to doing whatever low level unpaid job you're it's let's I know we're in a super polarized world right now, but we got to do better to get along, especially as Canadians. To me, we were the good guys in the world for a while, and now we're slipping away from that, and we got to go back to, obviously there was still problems with that, but we still got to be kind of the good guys at the UN and things like that. So, and when we bump into each other, keep saying sorry, buddy. Like, be better. That's all I ask.
It's always oh, sorry, even when someone else is at fault, you're like, oh, sorry, even if someone walked into you.
It's great. I mean, mentioning, like, I went down to Vermont about 4 years ago, and it was during, obviously the orange haired fella. And so I asked the brewery, I'm like, so what's your tax cut, state versus federal? They're like, it's this. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to buy beer here. So, because I'd rather support Vermont local than I will the orange haired guy who was in charge at the time. So.
The dark times.
Yes, the dark times. Awesome. So now, obviously, you work with a brewery. Could you see yourself collaborating with Mark at Broadhead to bring in an idea of like what kind of beer you'd like to see brought out in like a collab, maybe even with Cinema Swap, like make a movie beer?
That would be pretty cool. I never thought about that. I mean, I scream beer flavors at him from across the brewery all the time. Like, Mark, make me this, make me that, and he just laughs and shakes his head. I mean, sometimes I'm like, Mark does. In all seriousness, Mark does respect that I like a lot of beer, and he's like, Chris, what do you think of this? And like, I sometimes just like shout ideas like, oh, we should do this and that. He goes, oh, I'll keep that in mind. So I wouldn't be super surprised if eventually something I have yelled at him from across the room shows up on the tap list. But I don't know. I like beer collabs a lot. I'm hoping that this year we're able to do a lot more with other breweries in Ottawa, because it was something that since Mark has come to the brewery, basically he came to the brewery then pretty much COVID happened. So we haven't had a lot of chance to really network with the Ottawa community and get out there. So we want to do, I know Broadhead does want to do more beer collabs with other local breweries and just get out there and like make more friends in the industry again, because we have a really great team, but except for pretty much the owners, like most people are new just before or during COVID. So I'm the one person, I'm not the one person, but I'm one of the people in the brewery who knows the most of people in town at other breweries and stuff. So they want to like really get out there and be like, hey, I'm Mark, I'm the head brewer at Broadhead. Let's make a beer together. Let's be friends. Let's do stuff together and get it out there. So I'm hoping this year we can see some really cool stuff with that. Like, I know we got events going on. Like we're doing some stuff with Craft Beer Market in later February in Toronto and in Ottawa, which will be really fun. So it's on the plate for sure. Obviously, COVID lockdowns and more lockdowns throw plans out the window sometimes. So there's a lot we're hoping to do, and I really hope we get to do some cool stuff and just like get out there more and engage with the community, engage with the industry, and just have a really fun time doing it. Because we just want to have fun, you know.
So a question I always like to ask, unfortunately, I have to add this caveat nowadays: when it's safe to travel, let's say a little less COVID restrictions to travel as well. 2 beercations. 1, still have to have a job. Money is very much a thing in my life. And I eventually have to go back to work. That's 1 beercation. The other one is I won the Lotto Max. I don't have to work anymore. I'm going wherever I want.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to go to Boston for my birthday back in 2019 for like 5 days. It was my second time in Boston, but my first time being old enough to properly drink there because I was 19 the first time I went. So I had to drink in my friend's res room, a bunch of vodka and rum shots. It was not a good night.
Smirnoff Ices.
It got to the point where it was absolute vodka shots chased by Captain Morgan shots.
Oh, so yeah. 19. I remember those days. Actually, I don't.
It was a night we learned a lesson. That's for sure. But I went to Boston in 2019. So if I had to do a beer vacation, but I had to go back to work a week later, whatever, I would say right now, East Coast, USA. I was planning on going to Vermont in June of 2020. Obviously, that didn't happen. My fiance and I were going to go down there for like 5 days, breweries, wineries, cider, because she's a big cider drinker. And we had it all planned, Airbnb booked, all sorts of stuff. And then obviously COVID. Mm-hmm. So I would drive because Ottawa to Vermont's like 4 hours. It's not that far.
Yeah, it's only 2 hours for me. So it's 4 hours for you, depending on how you go down.
Yeah. So I'd, drive down to Vermont, spend a few days, probably Burlington area, easiest kind of. And then from there, probably maybe like hit Maine and then Boston, because I know Portland, Maine has some great breweries, and Boston. I love Boston as a city. Like I don't know if I'd ever want to live in the USA because there's all sorts of issues.
Yeah.
But like, gosh, I love Boston so much. Just the vibe down there, the energy of the city. Obviously, like when I was down in 2019, I went to 8 breweries in like 4 days, and it was some of the best beer I've had. Some excellent stuff. So I think East Coast USA, like New England, would be, if I had to like go back to work at some point, that would be the quicker trip. Yeah, and it's beautiful down there too. Good food, good drinks, friendly people.
And Lotto Max. I'm assuming you're not going to stick to just the East Coast of Canada and the USA if you won the Lotto Max, right?
No. So if I won the lottery, money was an option, never had to work again, I think the first place I would go for a beercation would be Western and Central Europe. There's obviously Germany and the Czech Republic, incredible beer scene there. I'd want to go everywhere in those 2 countries. Honestly, I'd go to Ireland too, like, visit the Guinness factory.
Yeah.
I have family in England that would be, fun, and friends in England too. So I would basically just like hop around Europe, England, Ireland, Scotland, Scandinavia, Central Europe, down to Italy, and just drink all the best beer in the Eastern Hemisphere. Mm-hmm. Basically, I've never been to Germany. I went to Italy with my family when I was younger, and we stayed one night in Frankfurt. So I've technically been to Germany, but we were in an airport hotel and I didn't leave. So I never really been to Germany, and I'd love to go, and especially Czech Republic too, because just like my mom got to go to the Czech Republic a couple of years ago with a friend of hers, and she doesn't drink beer, but she's like, oh yeah, we had some of these Czech beers at these bars. They're so good. I'm like, come on, you don't get to do that when I don't get to do that. That's not fair. You even like beer.
Digging in the knife a little deeper with each word.
She's like, yeah, they were so good. I'm like, come on. So, maybe in the future, my fiance and we can take a little Euro trip and just enjoy the high life for a few weeks, and but that would be the big one for me. I really want to go down south as well. Like I'd love to go to Nashville, because I know Tennessee's got some excellent breweries, and Nashville's like, I'm a big country music fan, so I think Nashville would just be a very fun town for me. and there's some excellent craft beer down there too. So that would be another option. But definitely Europe, I think, and just drink some of like the oldest beers in the world, and like the OG. Well, no, actually not where it started, because that was like Sumeria,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
where Western brewing started.
Yeah, something that's been around about 1,000+ years. Not obviously, like you said, Samaria and Mesopotamia is where beer technically started, but
Mhm.
obviously the rich history, and for sure some breweries were lost during World War I and World War II on most of that eastern part of the continent, in Europe, and in general. I'm sure there's recipes that existed that we'll never get again, that
Oh
were
yeah,
just
I mean,
unfortunately destroyed in the time. But yeah, for myself, as you mentioned, it's I'm a friggin' broken record with this. It's Germany and it's Belgium, and I want to drink with monks
that'd be
in the
dope.
robes. If I have to say prayers, even though I'm a little atheistic, I'll do it, because beer is good, and I love it. And I'll gladly donate to a monastery if I get to try these awesome open fermented beers. So
I don't think
it's
monasteries are problematic. I don't think anyone's had an issue with like Belgian monks,
no, that's true. That's
as far
true.
as I know.
No, no,
You know,
no.
Catholic Church adjacent, but
Yeah, yeah.
they don't bug anybody. They're.
Yeah, it's be great. Okay, so for the Instagram and the podcast as well, kind of like what's next?
What's next? So, I mean, for my own personal Instagram, I mean, I don't know. It's not about doing anything really crazy. Like, I like to post pictures of beer. If I have lots of followers and people enjoy it, that's really great. I do take some small pride in that, because it is nice to see that sort of affirmation. Essentially, people like what you're doing, so keep doing it. Awesome. But for the podcast, we want to we're putting out lots of episodes, doing some really fun stuff. We're looking forward to having more guests on. We want to keep growing. We want to see where that leads us. If we don't think we're going to be anything, we're not going to get famous and be super sponsored. We don't really expect that. We're a couple of nobodies from Ottawa, like, we know that. But if people listen, and if people like movies, which most people do, and you like having a good laugh about stuff, and just think about movies in a sort of different way than just, oh, what was that about, or I like that movie because the acting was good. Like look at movies in a sort of different light, and having even some movies we love, we still make fun of them. Just like poking fun at stuff we love, and talking about movies for a little bit. I think people would enjoy the show if they gave it a listen, and we'd love to keep growing and see where that goes. There's no real plan. We'll see what happens in the next little bit. But yeah, we enjoy doing it, and we really appreciate that we have listeners who stick with us every week, and enjoy the show as well. So it's nice, a little bit of affirmation there as well, basically.
No, like I said, super fun show. It's something different. There's you, and there's one called Best Movies Never Made, where they actually get scripts and directors of movies that were, a real live action Jetsons movie, or this because I'm a horror hound. I love horror movies, and there's obviously been like 12-ish Hellraisers, and it's like, well, here was what 4 was supposed to be, and here's what you got.
Very cool.
Yeah, and what Ghostbusters 3 was supposed to be before it became the ladies remake, in a sense. And it's like, I listen to a couple of beer podcasts. Obviously the Ontario Craft Beer Podcast is one of them. Excellent. With Robin LeBlanc and Jordan St. John, former guests of the show, which is always nice to hear. I used to listen to the Untappd one, but I gave up on that. And it's mostly just comedy. There's something about getting a good laugh during the day while I'm typing away endlessly at a computer. So
yeah, I mean, I drive all around for work, all over. Not really all over the province, but within an hour and a bit of Ottawa, so pretty, a good amount of kilometers in the car, and it's just podcasting. I love music. I love listening to music, but I rarely listen to music while I drive, because I have shows to listen to that are like watching TV shows every day. New podcast episode comes out, and I load up a few of them, drive around for 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever, and that's it. So I mean, if people, you mind if I do my handles there? Plug that
that's I was about to say, like,
Perfect.
It's been a great talk, and I really appreciate you once again taking time in your schedule. And as I love to let people know where they can find you.
Absolutely, yeah. So personal Instagram is at Buck Brewski, and that's Brewski with an I on the end. I mean, if you search Buck Brew, it's like the only thing that pops up, probably. So you're probably fine there. The podcast, Cinema Swap, it's at Cinema Swap, like it's spelt, no spaces or anything. We did actually start a little Instagram for our puppy Teddy the other day because I was inundating Facebook with photos, and posting too much can get annoying on Facebook. So I'm like, screw it. I'll post photos on Instagram for people to enjoy if they want to see photos of Teddy. So it's Teddy on the gram with a period between on and the. So it's Teddy on dot the gram. But we figured that was the least kind of corny looking thing. Yeah, Teddy on dot the gram. That's, you can see pictures of my super sweet little puppy. She's an Australian Shepherd. She's incredible, and I miss her every day when I'm out working.
Well, that's another thing I love about craft beer breweries, especially is as long as there's not a restaurant inside, you can bring your dog in. So,
I mean, some breweries. I mean, we allow dogs as long as they're not running around. We let dogs in Broadhead. You sit by the table, it's super chill.
yep.
So,
Yeah,
it's nice.
I was there, and some woman brought in her rescue. I can't remember the dogs. It was the dog with the long floppy ears there, but
Like a basset hound.
I think so, but super friendly. Just like sat next to us. I'm like, I want to steal your dog. So it's that's like Toronto. It's, oh, here's Black Lab. I'm like, oh my god, dogs everywhere and beer.
Well,
So
I mean, Stray Dog around the corner from Broadhead also is a dog friendly, like in their name. So
yeah, no, it's great. So everything you mentioned is everything's going to be in the show notes. So click on the links. It'll bring you directly to the podcast and all the Instagrams. As for us, it's allbeerinside.com is the website. At All Beer Inside on all social media. If you want to follow me personally, it's at Killer Carpe Diem. My Instagram is mostly about drinking beer and watching horror movies with it. And as like we mentioned during the episode, we can all do a little better. It's time that we do much better as humanity. We gotta get through this. Unfortunately, pandemics are a reality of life, but let's try and kick this one's butt. So.
absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. And as I said at the end of all episodes, drink craft, not crap.